Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of GSO Ocean Classroom Live, Ocean View, Art and Marine Science, which is being funded by the Devereux Ocean Foundation. So thank you again to Devereux for their generous support. Hello to our audiences out there on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, which is through Twitter, and all of our podcast listeners. Remember, if you've missed watching previous episodes, or you prefer maybe to listen to them while you're walking the dog, while you're driving, you can now find Ocean Classroom podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you've subscribed already, awesome. Thank you if you're listening now. And more information about these podcasts, as well as video archives of previous episodes and associated resources, can all be found on the Ocean Classroom Live website. So definitely, or webpage, definitely check that out. So my name is Holly Morin. I am a marine biologist and science communicator with the Inner Space Center at the University of Rhode Island's Graduate School of Oceanography. And I am super excited to again be your host today. The goal of these programs, these Ocean Classroom Live episodes, has not changed. So we'll be sharing a lot of really great ocean knowledge and insight with some fantastic content experts, but we also aim to keep things super conversational. So your input and questions are what really make these programs a success. So you can ask questions at any time during the broadcast. You're going to just either use that chat box feature that's underneath the video on Facebook or the YouTube chat box as well, if you're watching from there. And then we'll try to get to as many questions of yours today as possible. We always like to kick things off, though, with a question for our audiences. So I want to ask all of you, where are you tuning in from today? What city and state? Type those in there for us, and we'll check back in a few with all of your answers. While you're typing those in, just want a quick reminder to make sure that you please follow URI GSO on ISC, YouTube, and the ISC, on YouTube and Facebook, just so you can stay up to date on future classroom programs and more. And if you're watching a replay, awesome. If you have a question for us while you're watching this replay, definitely type it in there and we can try to get back to you with an answer as well. So let's check in, see where everybody's tuning in from today. Let's see, Placerville, California. Welcome, Dave. Glad to have you. Jamestown, Rhode Island. Thanks, Jane, for joining us today. Watching from London. Always love the international responses here. This is fantastic. Cape May County, New Jersey. Thanks, Mike. Great to have you. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for letting us know where everybody's tuning in. I love to see the geographical scope of where our audience is for today. So today we're talking about ocean science and art. Both of these are obviously for merriment or a field study to investigate a phenomenon or ask a question. And artists really do the same thing through their various art practices, whether it's the strokes of a paintbrush or the design of a large-scale sculpture. So like scientists, artists are conceptualizing and putting together ideas in new ways. Both scientists and artists learn by doing. And science and art really are both forms of storytelling. They help others see topics in different ways or create a new space for dialogue and understanding. Perhaps you've heard of something called STEAM. So if you think of STEM, it's an acronym, STEM. It stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. And if you add an A in there to make it STEAM, what this is a movement probably within the last decade or so, advocating for the integration and innovation captured in the arts. So we're adding an A in there to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And if you think about this, it's not really something new. Think about your naturalists way through history. So the biggest one to think about, usually I come to the best example, is Leonardo Da Vinci, right? They had to draw the world around them in intricate detail. So most folks think of Da Vinci as a fantastic artist, The Last Supper, the Mona Lisa. He was a painter, a sculptor, a musician, an architect, but he also was a scientist who had studies in anatomy, geology, botany, and he was an expert in engineering and math. I remember one time there was an exhibition I went to that had all these different sketches of his, of different things, not just beautiful art. And it was really fantastic to see that. So because he had such great knowledge, people went to him not just for his artistic ability, but for city planning and military design. It's really quite fascinating when you think of it that way. You know, people didn't have their phones, right, to take pictures of. They had to draw things in detail. John Audubon's another great example. All of these birds that he painted. It was the first record of many species, 25 plus species he named when he was studying them and did the first bird banding study study, but also painted beautiful pictures. So art and science are definitely connected, promotes creativity and engagement. And this is something that is carried over actually into the ocean world, or to vessels at sea. So this Schmidt Ocean Institute is a great example. They have an Artists at Sea program where they really want to make people rethink the way that marine science is shared, and break down some of those complexities in ocean research. So they bring artists on board. They're immersed in the day-to-day life that's happening at sea. And then the artists then use their work to share the science that's happening on the RV Falkor with broad audiences. It's really fantastic. And then I actually have a personal connection to all of this, so I'm super excited to share and connect with our experts today. I was an art minor when I was doing my undergraduate work at the University of New Hampshire, and it was the different techniques I learned then definitely played into my graduate work. I still remember my drawing instructor telling me how to connect different pieces that I was looking at and how to draw them appropriately, and I know those types of connections are what helped me in my graduate work. And plus, makes me happy, it brings me joy. And that same joy I know is something that our guests today share, that same passion. Both have submitted pieces to the upcoming Ocean View Art Exhibition, which is taking place from April 5 to 29 at the URI Providence Campus Gallery on Washington Street in Providence. So this event is hosted by URI, includes artwork in all media from 25 area professional artists and youth art competition, and it includes a youth art competition, with more than 200 artworks, pieces of artwork submitted by Rhode Island K through 12 students. They were exploring the ways that they are connected to the ocean. So our guests today also submitted pieces of art to that same exhibition. So our first guest today is Anthony Tomaselli, who's a lifelong Rhode Islander, born and raised here, a restaurant owner. He owns the 3 T's restaurants, if you're familiar with those. And he's also a professional artist. One of his paintings was actually the opening slate to today's program. So in addition to creating his own work, Anthony also teaches painting at the Providence Art Club, which I am now understanding is one of the oldest art organizations in the country. So Anthony, welcome. Why don't you say hello to our audiences and let them know a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I've been painting for a lot of years now, and the study of art and the study of people and the relationships we harness is just a wonderful thing. I've been in this state. I've been painting and teaching and learning, and so I'm grateful to be part of this discussion today, and I'm looking forward to hearing some questions. Then hopefully I can answer them with some energy and vigor.
Love it. So also joining us today is another lifelong Rhode Island resident. I love this. I'm the lone transplant here because I grew up in Massachusetts. So this is where I'm the outlier, I guess. But Kathy Hodge is also a professional artist who's affiliated with the Providence Art Club. She's a staffer there. In addition to a dedicated studio practice, Kathy has also worked as a newspaper designer and web producer. And she recently switched from painting landscapes to painting more ocean-themed art. You can see some of her beautiful artwork behind her there. She's actually partnered up with a scientist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and that scientist there is focused on studying plankton. So Kathy, why don't you say hello to our audiences? Let them know a little bit more about your background.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Like Holly said, I was born in Providence, and my parents actually met at Rhode Island School of Design. So there were oil paints around when I was a kid, and they didn't really push it on us, but when I was about 16, I picked up the oil paints and I did my first oil painting, and that sort of set me on this journey. It's been many decades. I've painted a lot of landscape, I've painted cityscapes, I've painted some machinery, but then I found out about the artist in residence programs in the national parks. And so I started applying and sometimes being accepted to 13 national parks and forests in the country, which really drove my work for the last few decades. And recently I was approached to be part of this project called Synergy 2. There was a Synergy 1, but this is the second time that they're partnering up artists and scientists out of Woods Hole to sort of work together to sort of translate the scientific research artistically. And it's a long-term project, and it's been really interesting to discover this whole hidden world I didn't know about under the surface of the ocean.
I love it. I feel like the world under the ocean is kind of hidden to most of us, right? So that's great. Thank you, Anthony and Kathy. So a reminder to our audiences, we really want this to be a conversation with all of you. So remember to type in your questions and comments at any time. And hopefully these introductions got your juices flowing. If you're curious about Anthony and Kathy's, their professional career path, experiences, a day in the life of an artist, their favorite medium, favorite hobby that maybe isn't art, definitely ask. The floor is yours. And we're actually going to kick things off with a video question. You can actually submit questions in advance of each Ocean Classroom Live episode, and these include video questions. So let's cue that up and share that video question.
Hi, my name is Noah Blazevich, and I live in North Providence, Rhode Island. My question is, what sparked your connection to the ocean?
Thank you, Noah. That's a great question. So, Anthony, what sparked your connection to the ocean?
Well, living in Rhode Island, you can't help but touch water at some point in your childhood, and it just seems to be such a natural allure to most humans. And once you get to whatever ocean or space, there is such beauty, such calmness, and there's also recreational behaviors. There's swimming when I was younger, but now I'm just attracted to all of its phases, and it's just changes visually for me. It fills my soul. It's the sounds of the ocean, the sounds of the wind, the birds. It's just an amazing thing. It's just an amazing thing.
I love that you could take the sounds and the smells and the movement, and then that translates into your artwork. I love when you almost feel like when you look at something, you can feel like you're there, right? And the full experience is happening. I think that's one of the beauties of art and how immersive it can be. Kathy, what inspires you about the ocean?
Yeah, I think like Anthony said, when you grow up in Rhode Island, it's just a part of your life. You just accept that the ocean is always there, and it's just some place that you go for relaxation and fun when you're a kid. But when I went out west with the national parks, I discovered that here in Rhode Island, we don't see much of the landform. Everything seems to be covered over with houses and trees and things. And you go out west and you really see the earth. You see the big forms, the big patterns, and the power of the earth. And then coming back to Rhode Island, I realized that we have the ocean here. And the ocean is probably the most powerful environment on earth, and the most important to us, and the most mysterious. So when I had this chance to partner with the scientists at Hui, it was just a great opportunity that I just leaped at.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. And I always tell the story of, for me, I remember I grew up on the beach in Cape Cod. I got married on Cape Cod too. I apparently said I was going to get married there, and I did. And I would be there every day. And I remember it was just where I felt at home, and I remember when I was whale watching, right? Oh, there's me out in the intertidal. Yep. I could be out there. I still do this. I will go out and happily collect shells, flip rocks with my kids, and tell anybody that will listen to me about what I may find. But, you have these moments, and I was out on a whale watch, and I still have this photo that I took with a still camera of a humpback whale breaching out of the water. And that was I was sold at that point in time that this is what I was going to go do. And it is this allure and this wonderful feeling. And everyone I know, when it's the smell of the ocean, when you're near it, and there's something about that really just, it's a sense of place that's great. So it seems like we have a question, which is fantastic. So let's bring that up. So Thea would like to know, Kathy, how do you get your image ideas for the unseen under the sea? What an awesome idea. That's a great question. Where do your ideas come from, Kathy?
That's a very interesting question, because when I first partnered with the scientist, Chrissy Hernandez, was actually studying larval tuna and whether they were spawning off the coast of New England. but she had completed her research. At first I thought, oh, I'll get to go out on the boat and see what she's doing. But between COVID and the fact that she had completed her research, all I had were her charts and graphs and a few photos. So I decided that I needed to see some of this unseen life in reality, in real life. So I bought a microscope and I went out to the water and I collected little vials of seawater. And sure enough, there were tons of little living things in there that I could see. So I started taking pictures of those, and I'm using those for reference. And I'm also using other people's reference photos, scientists who have much better microscopes and cameras than I do. And they've given me permission to use some of their imagery. So between all of that, I'm gathering a lot of imagery to use.
That's great. And then I was going to say there's a beautiful video you supplied to us that actually shows you sketching out these plankton. It's just such a fascinating process. Could you talk a little bit more to that?
Yeah, that's I'm going to do some smaller works in a medium called egg tempera, which uses the yolks of eggs and pigments to make paint. And so I'm doing some drawings to prepare for that. And that big round shape is a plankton I saw under my microscope. And I'm actually putting him against a starry sky, a constellation, to sort of tie in how all these things fit together. So what I'm drawing now are the stars. So that will be a painting eventually.
That's great. And then if you want to take this a step further, Kathy, a lot of times what we find out about in the ocean, I think it's great that you're making this connection between these plankton and the sea and potentially outer space. And a lot of the technology and tools we use for deep sea exploration now is starting to be translated actually to outer space work. I know that the navigational systems on the Perseverance, the rover that just landed in Mars, is actually something they're using for some of the different vehicles that they deploy underwater. So it's great that you're making that connection through art too. I think it's wonderful. Anthony, for you, in our conversations, you know, you may not be connected with a scientist right now, but you still have that connection to the ocean right outside your own window, right?
Right.
So how does that influence your?
Well, it's, you know, I recently, 7 or 8 years ago, moved to the Bay here, Narragansett Bay, and I had been, for many years, I painted other than traditional landscapes and seascapes. And when I started painting, I was painting working boats in Galilee, and that connection with people and work and the beauty that surrounds it. And then to live on the bay now, and this bay has undergone such enormous change in terms of cleaning it environmentally. And the state has done an exceptional job, but it's a working bay. Behind me is a tanker. That's a painting of a tanker that comes up here by the birds that fly. It's a migration route. I get to see different kinds of ducks, and it's just amazing. And less scientifically, so to speak, my connection is very spiritual. It's a cleansing of the clutter that goes on, and brings me closer to it by being in it. And I share that with my vision, my work, and I try to share with others always, and bring people to a place that opens up not only the beauty but themselves to it, and then hopefully to one another.
That's great. I love it. I want to just encourage everybody, if you have questions, definitely type them in, and we'll bring those up and let Anthony and Kathy answer as many of those as we can today. Anthony, there's a quote that you had on the Providence Art Club website that it kind of gets to what you were just talking about. And you say, there is something about this creative process of making art that keeps bringing us back to it, a passion, a question that needs to be answered, that special feeling we get when doing it, the camaraderie of others involved in a similar journey. I loved that. And I feel like that is really what you were just capturing with what you said. Kathy, what is it for you that brings you back? You've had kind of a very interesting career, different paths between being in the national parks or working with the newspaper, and now working with this scientist. What is it though that brings you back to this?
I'm not exactly sure why I've never given it up, but I started painting young and got right into oil painting, which was great to start so young. It wasn't intimidating to me at all. And all through, I've always had to have a day job working in newspapers generally, or various other jobs when I was younger, counter work and, Dunkin' Donuts and places like that. But I kept painting the whole time and I just never gave it up. And now I'm beginning to have a little more free time. So it's great. I just see it as something that will be with me all my life. I think it's my way of making sense of the world, just processing everything that I see and hear and just putting it into some sort of structure that I can understand.
I love that. I really do. And taking this a step further so people understand. So you're talking about I loved seeing your paintbrushes there, that photo that Justice brought up. What does it mean to be a professional artist? So what type of career is that? I know a lot of people might think of artwork more of as a hobby. You can look behind me, right? And I usually keep a pad of paper with me. And when I'm traveling or if I'm at sea, I try to create when I can. This is actually from oil pastels are what I usually work with. And these are sheath bills. These are birds that you find in the Antarctic. And they don't have any feathers on their face, kind of similar to turkey vultures because they eat a lot of really gross things. So, but they're fascinating birds. And I love kind of making them look more tropical than cold and Antarctic-y, polar. But what is it your day to day? What is it like being a professional artist, Anthony? What does your day look like?
Well, it never stops. The passion that you have, you wake up and owning restaurants. At one time I was very busy with that as well, but that always brought me back to the painting. My day begins with a cup of coffee. I head over to the studio, and I usually have many projects going on. I'm involved in many galleries, setting things up to teach. And I think the most difficult part of being a professional artist is maintaining motivation. And I think in all of our lives, not just it's so universal. Teaching grounds me. It brings me back to the essence of the basics of not only making the art in a physicality, but also expressing and teaching people how to express that which is within their soul, that they want to express, a mood, an attitude, a political statement. But and I paint, I have lunch, I interact with people. I'm down at the Providence Art Club. My door's open. My adult students walk in at random. They have questions. And again, I am more than happy to engage in that. And then I am in correspondence with galleries, trying to get into new galleries. There's marketing, there's Facebook posts that don't have to happen, but it helps maintain some branding. And I'm pretty much of a tyrant when I teach in some respects because I take no prisoners. I mean, you got to work at it. You're not born with this. Few are born. Michelangelo and Da Vinci, people like that. But the rest of us work our butts off, and it doesn't stop. But it's a passion and it's a love, and you do it. You do it.
Kathy, is that anything for you as well? That what your usual day as a professional artist?
Yeah, well, I think what made me feel more like a professional artist than a hobbyist is just to always think of myself first as an artist and my job as a day job. Even though I've had interesting parts of my career, working in newspapers was fun for a while. And I was lucky to have the jobs I had to support me, but I would always put it into my spare time. And now I have a few more days off a week than I used to. So most of the time, my days are not very structured, and I'm hoping to get some more structure into them as I transition more into becoming a full-time artist. But I usually do a lot of drawing, most often in the morning, and then I'll go into my studio. I always have made sure to have a dedicated studio space, which is another way to feel more like a professional artist. And right now I have a 2-car garage that's totally dedicated to my studio, which I'm really lucky to have. And I'll go in there and paint for, 5 or 6 hours. And like Anthony said, there's a lot of administrative work. It seems like there's more and more as we become more connected online, and galleries sort of give up a lot of the marketing and put it more on the artist. So there's a lot of marketing and keeping track of your inventory and posting on social media, things like that, which can actually almost take over sometimes. So you have to fight back with that and just make sure that to put your studio work first. So
look at that. Is that an image from your studio, Kathy?
Yeah, I actually have 2 studios. Really, it's the luckiest I've ever been with studios. We have a small house, but there's 3 small bedrooms. So one of the bedrooms is my studio for drawing, and the garage is my studio for painting. So I work in both places.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that the paintings that were up there, these beautiful, vibrant blue for our podcast listeners, lots of movement, lots of color. And the same thing with Anthony, yours just have this kind of ethereal feel to them, which I really love. And it's just the way that everything is placed. Oh, we have another question here. So Bethany is asking, the plankton in Kathy's artwork behind her. Oh, it's not a question, it's a comment. It's absolutely fantastic. I completely agree with you, Bethany, for sure, that it is beautiful. And I love that you have a microscope that you look through, because otherwise you can't really see these plankton, but that you went out on the water and collected them. And it would be great if you collected them from other, you could start looking in other locations and see what you find. There's a little copepods. See, I can start naming what they are, given my background. Mm-hmm. But the way that you're translating that imagery behind you, I agree, Bethany, is really fantastic. Really quickly for both of you, because I know we're starting to get up to getting close to our 30-minute mark here, our half-hour mark, but what's your favorite creative memory? And it doesn't have to be something that's connected to the ocean, but do you have a moment, in your artistic career that was kind of this aha moment for you, kind of like the whale breaching out of the water for me? What was it for you all? Anthony, you want to go first?
Oh. Yeah, I'm going to go back. There's been so many aha moments in my life, but I think the biggest one happened when I was 16 years old. There was a gentleman teaching in Providence, and I was recommended by my brother's friend who was autistic, Gene Tonoff. I don't know if you know him, Kathy. Big burly man, very philosophical in his approach, and he just we would go there and he would give us a piece of paper, but the aha-ness, and I still teach this. He was grand in stature, and I was 16, just beginning to venture out, and he would speak to us as we were doing our art, and he would say, "Know thyself. Know thyself. Be one with God. Be one with your Maker, your Creator. Rid yourself of negativity and negative emotions. Cleanse. Be spontaneous. Be intuitive. Know thyself." And that is such the essence of being an artist. It made sense to me at 16. It changed my life. It made me feel not so different. And it began a conversation that was 50 years ago, and it's still continuing today. And Kathy, it's the zone. We get in the zone. That zone is timeless, endless, and we don't know we're there until we leave it. So that's my goal in art, is the personal goal is to be in that zone. When the painting's done, hopefully it sells and I can please people with my imagery.
Wonderful. Kathy, what about you? Did you have, in all your adventures that you've had, has there been some moment, some creative moment that really struck you, or something that, similar to Anthony, that you've kind of carried through all of your career?
Yeah, I don't think I had one specific moment, but certainly my time in the national parks has really, because when you're artist in residence there, you're there 24 hours a day for like 2 weeks. So you get to sleep in the park, you get to wake up in the park. You're there when other people aren't there in many parks. So it really sinks into you, and you understand the power of the earth And I think that's really influenced my work. In most of the national parks, I've run into a situation where I'm not having fun anymore. I'm either not exactly lost, but having trouble getting back to, I've overestimated how far I could go, or the weather changes and I'm totally miserable. And then I realized nature is a lot bigger than us, and it really doesn't care about us. We're just like part of the whole system, and we're not in charge anymore. So that made me realize how powerful it is and how much respect you need to give it. And the beauty, there's beauty in that, and there's a feeling of something beyond ourselves. So I think that's really influenced my work.
Fantastic. And then out of curiosity, did you connect with others through your artist in residence program with the Park Service? Did you share your artwork with other public, I'm thinking like public audiences as a way to talk about, wildlife preservation? I mean, even what you're saying now is so impactful. Were there opportunities for you to give presentations about that and share your artwork in that sense?
Yeah. Part of the program requires you most of the time to give a public program to the people in the park. So I do a charcoal sketching class usually, and we go out in the landscape and sketch. I'd provide all the materials, and we'd go out and sketch there. And also, when I was up in Alaska, I actually camped and kayaked with the forest rangers. It was just the three of us just going out and kayaking in the fjords along the coast, which was an incredible experience. So I got to get the perspective of the forest rangers and the park rangers, and realize that they're interpreting the landscape in their way, and they call themselves interpreters, and I would be a volunteer in the park, so also an interpreter. So I'm interpreting the park artistically to the public. So we had that same mission. We just had different ways of expressing it. And then when I came back to Rhode Island, they encourage you to give public presentations about the parks and about the need to preserve the spaces. So I've given several talks about these different parks.
I love that. I love that where you just said that the park rangers and you had similar missions, just different ways of expressing it. I think that's it. That's just in a nutshell, this the synergy between art and science. It really is there, just different methods accomplishing similar goals, right? This is great. This has been so great. I can keep talking to both of you for hours. This is so insightful, and I really love it. We got to wrap because we've gotten up to our 30-minute mark here. So thank you so much, Kathy and Anthony. This has been fantastic. Thank you to our audiences today, and hopefully everybody has kind of gathered or gained some perspective here, and how creative outlets are really important, especially in science, and to anybody, not just scientists as well. And hopefully, the doors to the inner artist maybe has been opened for all of us. So you want to always keep asking questions, always be creative, and hopefully those creative juices are now flowing, and you can go and craft something that's been inspired by the ocean, which leads us to our homework. We always like to have homework for our classroom episodes. So you definitely want to go check out some of Kathy and Anthony's pieces that are part of that Ocean View art exhibition. So add those dates to your calendar, April 5 to 29 at the URI Providence Campus Gallery. The lobby is on the first and second floor, and that is where the artwork has been hung. And there's a gallery night on April 15th. And you want to just check out the Ocean View website. You can actually view the pieces in person, or there'll be a virtual gallery as well. The Ocean View webpage will have that online gallery that will showcase the K through 12 student art and other pieces. It's been a really great turnout, so I'm super excited for this event. Anthony, you had put it so well when we were talking earlier in the week that it's not only important to create, but it's also really important to acknowledge the work of others. So we do encourage everybody to take a chance or take an opportunity when you have it to look at the art that's been produced by all of these different artists. There are a whole host of other ocean-themed art contests that happen that are hosted nationally and locally. The Bow Seat Ocean Awareness Program is one of them. I know that the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration also hosts a marine debris art program, an endangered species art contest. the Nautilus Live program through the Ocean Exploration Trust. They also have a badge contest, so lots of different ways for individuals that have an interest in ocean science and art to kind of explore that further. And locally, Anthony and Kathy, I don't know if you've actually visited this location, the RISD Nature Lab. Have you all been there at all? Kathy's nodding her head yes. No, Anthony's not. So no, that's okay. But it's a natural history collection that the Rhode Island School of Design, they actually maintain, that you can access. RISD's actually been really great with the STEAM movement in Rhode Island between the Nature Lab, their collaborative programs with Brown. They have work that they're doing with URI Marine Affairs and the landscape architecture program that's at RISD. So a lot of great opportunities. I think they've even done work with NASA and designing spacesuits. So it's really great to see how far the arts can integrate into science and vice versa. So thank you again to Kathy and Anthony. I really have enjoyed chatting with you all today, and thank you for sharing your insight and experiences. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to the Devereux Ocean Foundation for their support, and thank you again to all of our audiences for taking the time to join us today. Make sure you check out all the different websites that have been shared. I know that Peter's been busy sharing those in the comments and various the different responses in the chat boxes, etc. And then mark your calendars for the future episodes we have coming up on Thursday, April 15th. We'll be back at the 12 p.m. Noon time slot, and we'll be exploring the topic of underwater acoustics. And again, as always, follow along URI, GSO, and the Inner Space Center on social media. And if you have any ideas for future classroom events, there is a feedback form there that you can fill out as well. Otherwise, Kathy, Anthony, thank you again so very much. This has been great. Everyone else, please stay safe and be well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.